Madam Mayor, Madam Democratic nominee, welcome to News and Talk 1380 WAOK.
I'm so glad to be here in person with you.
There you go. You wear many titles. You are, first and foremost, a mother, a wife, a former city council member, a former judge, a lawyer, and now you're the Democratic nominee to become governor of the state of Georgia. Of all of those titles, which one do you believe best qualifies you to be the CEO of the entire state of Georgia?
Well, Derrick, now don't cut me short. Now you left off senior advisor to the president of the United States.
Absolutely.
So, they have all mattered, and every moment has prepared me, I truly believe, for this moment. With each step personally and professionally, I've learned, I've grown. Having the privilege of leading our capital city has given me a viewpoint across this state that I may not have otherwise have had, just in working with leaders across the state and working with a cross-section of government leaders from the state level to the federal level, and then having the opportunity to serve a president and seeing how things get done and how you deliver for the people of this state. It's all matter. And then being a city council person, being on the ground, having to deliver for people, and you know this very well, rolling up your sleeves, picking up that trash, and doing everything that you need to do to make sure that our communities are whole. Serving as a lawyer, having the opportunity to represent children, to represent indigent clients, to serve as a judge, seeing the sides of the justice system that most people don't get an opportunity to see. You know my story very well, Derrick. I've talked about my father's incarceration and that being my introduction to the criminal justice system. So it's all prepared me. I'm a daughter of Atlanta, at least a fifth generation Georgian, and I'm grateful, and I count it a privilege and a great honor to now be the nominee for governor.
Take us back to that night, that speech, that stage, as you're standing there. You outpaced a lot of good candidates. Were you surprised at all by the results? Because it wasn't a runoff. You just beat everybody.
I wasn't surprised, and that's why I began that speech by saying the grace of God is sufficient. You know, my faith teaches me that faith without works is dead. I believed that we could do it. I knew that from the beginning. I wouldn't have gotten in the race. And then we did the work, and then the people believed in the work that we were doing. Internally, you know, from running elections, being a part of elections, you run all of your models and your data. And my very able friend and valued team member, Sharon Hickson and Rashad Taylor, Sharon had said to me, my model is showing that you can go as high as 57%. She said, if you ever say that publicly, people will think that you are crazy. But I do believe if we do this work and if we talk directly to the people, we can cross that 50% threshold and potentially go as high as 57%. And we did it. So I think everybody was shocked but I always knew it was possible.
All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we want to talk about Georgia. Atlanta's not Georgia, and Georgia's not Atlanta.
Right.
And so there's got to be a message. And when we come back, we want to tell them, what's that message? How do you unify Georgia? How do you talk about South Georgia's farmers and what they need? The lack of affordability as it relates to health care. The lack of general affordability.
That's
Georgia
right.
is an agricultural state. How do we bring the town and the gown together so that November produces a win for Keisha Lance Bottoms for governor? Affordability has come up as a buzzword in this campaign on both sides. Your opponent says, hey, we don't know necessarily what affordability is. They can't clearly define it. But where you sit, we often say that it's the economy, it's the kitchen table issues that are important. What do you see in your campaign as the issues defining where Georgia is economically? And we're struggling. A lot of people, gas is still too high, food is too costly, wages are stagnant. What does Keisha Lance Bottoms see as an answer to some of those issues of affordability?
I'll just say this. Anybody who doesn't understand affordability is somebody who's never had to go in the grocery store and put groceries back or make decisions about where you're going to drive that day because you may or may not have gas money to get to every destination that you need to get to that day. Or maybe you never had to look at your bills and figure out which one's going to get paid today and which one's going to get paid when the next check comes in. So when I'm moving around the state, everybody is talking about the cost of everything. And people are feeling it, and they are feeling it in ways that it permeates every conversation. It is the number one topic of discussion. So before the big ugly bill in January, people were already complaining about groceries. They were already complaining about the cost of housing in the state. Then in our rural communities, 9 rural hospitals have closed. So there's a transportation component there too, because people who otherwise may already be living on the margins economically are now having to figure out, will I have gas money or even do I have transportation to drive an hour to my next appointment? We were in Waycross a few days ago, and they were sharing that even some of the transportation service providers who's supposed to help people get back and forth to their doctor's appointments won't travel down dirt roads to pick up people. So that was already on the table. Big ugly bill comes in January. Healthcare costs for a lot of small business owners across the state went up significantly. People are talking about their premiums having gone up 2 and 3 times. 500,000 people in the state have opted out of health care, period, because of it. So what I've been doing, Derrick, is I've been moving around the state, listening to people and then offering what I think can be meaningful solutions. We created an affordable housing trust fund in Atlanta when we closed the deal over on Centennial Yards, giving us flexibility to build more housing to help offset rising property taxes and offer some other relief to people. I believe we should do that statewide. Students are saying I'm having to choose between tuition, rent, and food. I believe free technical and community college can be a reality in this state to help offset some of the burden of high cost of education in this state. In the city of Atlanta, we created a lot of support for our small businesses with loan funds and grant programs. We did the same thing for first-time home buyers. That can be scaled statewide. So there are a lot of things that we know have been successful that people throughout this state aren't experiencing. And then just lastly, we need to expand Medicaid in this state. We talk about these 9 rural hospitals right here in Atlanta. Atlanta Medical is gone. It's been torn down. South Fulton, shut down. Reason being, and although the corporate folk may not say it, it's because we've not expanded Medicaid in this state.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. With that many people uncovered and dropped, and as you said, when the Obama kind of premiums were adjusted and they were not renewed, even more people came off in a community where there are a lot of sick people, right? When you look at the 3 deadliest diseases, high blood pressure, hypertension, and cancers, we are represented disproportionately in all those areas, and oftentimes die in excess of our numbers because we cannot get to the service. Because I've had many people say, hey, I want to go, but I can't afford it. What is the priority there for you in terms of Medicaid expansion? How would you get it done?
So people have asked a legitimate question. If I don't have Medicaid, I'm not relying on Medicaid. What difference does it make to me? Well, the difference it makes is that if you have an emergency and if you're traveling anywhere throughout this state, you could be an hour away from an emergency room, an ICU unit, Someone shared with me when we were in Jessup this week. Her sister-in-law traveled an hour and 15 minutes to get to a delivery room because there's not one in the community. It also means if you have a virus, a sinus infection that sends you to the emergency room, and that emergency room is bursting at the seams with people, a lot of those people are there because they don't have the money to go to a primary care doctor to get that preventative medicine. And we don't even have to look much past 2020 and COVID. Part of the reason our fatalities in the state were so high were because of those underlying conditions: high blood pressure, diabetes, asthma, obesity. All of these underlying conditions made that pandemic even more deadly in Georgia because we rank amongst the highest in the nation with those underlying conditions, many of which can be controlled if people are able to access primary health care.
People ask, and we got to get ready to take a break. We know Keisha. We know Keisha in the metro area. And now the interesting fact is half the population of Georgia is in this 20 county metro area. Tell us how Keisha Lance Bottoms penetrate outside of Atlanta, that other part of Georgia that's rural, agricultural, that's also hurting. What's your message to farmers and those who are in the agribusiness who are seeing their farms lost, foreclosed? USAID, which had a lot of contractual relationships with Georgia, shuttered, and now those farmers are not making any money in some instances. What's your message to them? How do you take this urban, personality to rural Georgia to say, hey, we understand what you're going through?
Derrick, I'm going to invite you to go on the road with us. When we hit the road, people are so happy that we just took the time to even come. And when we get there, it's an opportunity to hear from them directly. So when I'm sitting around the table in Albany with farmers, which agribusiness is the number one business in the state, and I hear black farmers telling me by the time we find out about the program, it's either run out of money or it's shut down. They closed the business in my community, the door that I could walk into and access information. Everybody's gatekeeping. They aren't sharing information with us. I can immediately start thinking about solutions to that. So part of what came out of my moving around the state was creating a division when I become governor, God willing, that focuses on those 0 to 25 micro businesses, which encapsulates a lot of our farmers. That's directly responsible for helping support them. When farmers are talking about concerns about data center and the toll that it's taking on their community and potentially their water supply, and everybody's talking about energy costs. Like, these are things that are bubbling up from the ground up. It helps us create policy, and it gives me this much broader view of what the needs are around the state. And the great thing, we've been around this state multiple times. My daughter, Lincoln, who's here with me today, said, Mom, people on social media keep saying you need to get out of Atlanta. You've been out of Atlanta. I said, right, for the past year. So for everybody who's now paying attention, we have been parked outside of the metro area. Metro area is important, but there's a very big state that wants and needs our attention too.
Your opponent has dropped $87 million in a media buy. Unprecedented, but not unprecedented for him because he spent $120 million to get the nomination. His effort to define you is probably going to be through $87 million. We'll come back from the break. I want you to tell us, how do you combat that? And what message do you want people to know before the commercials come on, the radio come on, about who Keisha Lance Bottoms is at her core?
All right.
All right. Let's talk about your opponent, a billionaire, unheard of, in Georgia politics. I've been a Georgia politic watcher all my life, and a lot of people enter the race with a lot of money. And we used to say that money is a mother's milk of politics. You got to have it. And so in a minute, I'm going to tell you to tell us all how we can donate to your campaign. Unusual in that the inordinate amount of money that has crept into politics. What do you want people to know about Keisha Lance Bottoms before there is this effort to define your record, your time and tenure as mayor? What do you want to say about that preemptively? And what do people need to listen to instead of a bunch of commercials? Because we saw that's how outpaced his Republican, nominees, other fellow Republicans who run against them, and beat back the establishment, quote unquote. What do you want people to know before we get to what we believe is going to be an onslaught of just commercial after commercial, radio spot after radio spot?
Well, thank you for asking that, Derrick. I can tell you I am not a perfect person. My faith teaches me that there was one perfect man who walked this earth. But I can tell you that I am going to always do my best to do the best for the people that I'm representing. And what I've said to my family is turn off the TV and get out of the comment section. The lies are already starting. What I've seen with this guy out of the gate, this billionaire, he's already lying on my name. So even the commercial that he's been running saying I used taxpayer money to buy a ticket for my husband, the part that he doesn't tell is I caught it before the media did. When I had to go receive the Super Bowl ball for Atlanta, our travel was booked. And then I asked the question, how did you all pay for my husband's travel? Because I realized they didn't put it on my credit card. I wrote the city a check reimbursing the city probably 3 months before the media even got the story. So that's the part that he's not going to tell. This is a man who got a $1 billion no bid contract from the state of Georgia in the midst of COVID. So when you see those commercials, that's your money that he's using to put up on air. $1 billion. Now, Derrick, you were in City Hall for a number of years. Can you imagine what happens when we would give out any kind of contract? Imagine if you gave out $1 billion from the city, no bid, the FBI, the CIA,
right,
the GBI, everybody would have been at your door looking for that money, likely. So my point is this: I want to always fight on behalf of our communities. I want to always do the work that I know needs to be done for the least of these. We know serving Atlanta, you got to be able to deal with a cross section of people. It's the way you get things done.
Right.
It's the way you're going to get things done across the state. But when you have somebody who's running ads saying you're going to be deported or departed, I'm going to be Trump's favorite governor, I'm going to be Trump with a Southern tone, people need to think about what that means and then think about what I'm offering to do for people. I want to expand Medicaid in this state. I want to support small businesses in this state. I want to make sure that there's a seat in pre-K for every child in this state. I want free technical and community college in this state. I want to make sure that we have some meaningful work on criminal justice reform that allows people to have a second chance in this state. So think about who I am and what I represent, and then think about who he is. I am a mother. I'm a daughter of Atlanta, Frederick Douglass High School. In fact, when I was listening to part of your intro music, Dougie Fresh, the last time education was fully funded in this state, I was in the marching band at Douglass, and Dougie Fresh was our halftime show. And I remember it because it was such an epic halftime show.
Right.
That was 1985. So I want to make sure that education is fully funded in this state. All this guy is talking about is pleasing Trump. He gave Trump $2 million in the middle of his primary. And even Trump, laughs about it like, oh, can you believe it? He gave me $2 million. Can you imagine what could have been done with $2 million for people across this state? So it is, there's a stark contrast. And I just ask that people remember that we still have the power. This guy may have the money, he's going to flood the airways, but we still have the power.
Talk about Keisha Lance Bottoms' pathway to victory. What do you have to do between now and November to bring home a win? And what do you need for the people that support you to do?
We've got to move around this state, keep working to earn votes, not taking anybody for granted. That means we're going to have to knock on some doors. We're going to have to call some people on the telephone. And we do have to raise money. We've had over 100,000 small dollar donors. That's $100 or less giving to our campaign, which has gone a very long way. It's been our fuel for our fire. We need more of that. KeishaForGovernor.com. If you want to be a part of, there's a subgroup that's already been established, menforkeisha.com, that you can give. We're asking men to give $100 each and stand in the gap and give more for those who can't give. Anything that you give and can help us with is appreciated. And I'm asking people to be the ambassadors for your home. Check the voter registration of everybody in your house. Make sure everybody is registered to vote. Make sure they have a plan to vote. And then if you have more bandwidth, then get to your contact list in your telephone and check and ask people to check their registration. You can do that going to the Secretary of State's office. It's going to take all of us. And I just remind people, lastly, Derrick, in May, I won 158 out of 159 counties. The one I lost was Bacon. I lost it by 3 votes. We're going to Bacon and we're going to find those 3 votes.
Right.
Nobody thought we could do it.
No.
But in the words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it's done. And a win for this campaign is a win for all of us. Because where I go, I'm taking all of us with me. In terms of how we have a seat at the table, how we have an opportunity to compete in this state, and how we care about the least of these across the state. And that's not specific to white, black, Democrat, Republican, Latinos, Asian. That when I say all of us, I mean all of us who want somebody who's thinking about them.
I want you to tell everybody, because I know we said we have about 45 minutes. I don't know what else you have, but tell everybody how they can give to your campaign, how they can volunteer, because campaigns are few volunteers, and people ask,
That's right.
How can I get involved? And then you're a former judge, attorney with the Georgia Bar. Make your closing argument to the people, because people listening in Georgia and outside of Georgia, why you would be the absolute best governor for a new Georgia.
Yeah. This guy's running to be Trump's favorite governor. Let me tell you whose favorite governor I want to be. I want to be the favorite governor of that little girl who's going to visit her daddy in prison, just like I used to have to do. I want to be the favorite governor of that mother who's working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet, just like my mother did. I want to be the favorite governor of that business owner, like my uncle, who is trying to figure out how to keep his business afloat in economic uncertainty. I want to be the favorite governor of that person who wants to go back and be retrained for a job or get their associate's degree, but they don't have the money to do it. That's whose favorite governor I want to be. I want to be the favorite governor of that person who's trying to figure out how they're going to pay their rent. And they know that there's somebody they can pick up the phone who can help and who can offer them meaningful solutions. That's whose favorite governor I want to be. So if you want to vote for somebody who wants to be Trump's favorite governor and all the policies and cuts that he has made across the state of Georgia, then he's your guy. But if you want a favorite governor who's thinking about your family and your community and how your life can be better, and not just surviving, but thriving in this state, then I'm your candidate.
Tell everybody how they can reach your campaign, phone numbers, social media, anything for people who want to volunteer, and definitely for people who want to give. How can they give? What can they find the campaign?
Keisha for Governor, Keisha, KeishaForGovernor.com is how you can give. You can also sign up to volunteer online, and then, just be our megaphone. When you're in the barbershop when you're in the hair salon, the nail salon, at work, at church, wherever you are, spreading the word and just encouraging people to show up. We outvoted Republicans. We were outspent by $100 million in the primary. We still outvoted Republicans by 150,000 votes. We can do it again.
All right. Keisha Lance Bottoms, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you.
Come back.
Appreciate you.
We want to keep updated on the progress of the campaign.
Thank you.
All right. She's Keisha Lance Bottoms. She's a Democratic nominee for governor of Georgia. And again, she's soliciting and asking for your help, as well as for you to make a donation. Again, it's good to say I'm standing with you. It's even better to put something in the till to help the bus get down to South Georgia and metropolitan Atlanta. Again, Madam Mayor and Democratic nominee, congratulations on the primary win, and on forward to November.
Thank you.
All right, look, we got to take a break. Don't y'all go into place. We'll be back. It's Too Much Truth with Derrick Boazman on News and Talk 1380 WAOK.